I've tried using this on my normal regular lashes. It droops so fast. But this one is a lower lash mascara. Great. I will add a little bit of a something special on top of it to really make everything pop. It's a forbidden fruit. I just realized that it has been a hot minute since I did an eyeshadow tutorial video, and recently one of you guys did comment on my eyeshadow looks, which I did give like a brief overview on how I actually do it. I thought that would be better that I do an actual sit down proper tutorial video. So today I'm going to show you guys how to achieve it. Basically, my eyeshadow style nowadays is a little bit more boring, I guess, but it's neutral, but at the same time it still pops and sparkle. So I'm going to show you guys how to achieve that look, and grab your brushes, grab your eyeshadow palettes, and without further ado, let's get into it. To start us off, I always recommend using an actual eye primer. The ones I've been using nowadays is the MAC Paint Pot. I do have two shades. This one is in soft ochre. So soft ochre is a little bit more on the orangey, warmer side of things, and I do have Painterly as well. So this is Painterly. So just a quick little color difference between the two. And the reason why I love to use the MAC Paint Pot over here is because there is some color pigmentation to it. So it does help to add some coverage to color correct the unevenness on my eyelids. And because of that, whatever eyeshadow powder that you do lay on top of this, the pigmentation and color of the eyeshadow powder itself will pop a little bit more. So it'll add to the vibrance and it won't look so muddy. So the shade I'm using now on my eyelid is Painterly. So there's a little bit of a pink undertone to it, and as you can see, with and without, you definitely can see a difference, and it just helps to even things out better. I think in my first video I did mention also that to always get a dedicated eye primer, and I still stand by it because I am not a big fan of using concealer as your tacky base, because concealers are meant to be, laying on your skin to do some coverage on like acne, blemishes, things like that. And concealers are made in mind with the fact that there is some level of wateriness and hydration to it. When it comes to eye primers, these are meant to grip onto eyeshadow powder. So if you're on a budget, you can work with a concealer on your eyelids, but if possible, you can try to get an eyeshadow primer, probably from a drugstore. I think Essence does sell pretty affordable eye primers. I did see that in Guardian and Watsons. In the past, the palettes and color stories that I've picked up or recommend to use is something that is something like this. Very warm, yellow, strong, warm undertones. And honestly, this is something that I've been gravitating away because I did get my personal color analysis done in Korea about a year back, and this kind of color story by right is not suitable for me, which again, I have very mixed feelings about personal color analysis thing, but I cannot deny that I stray away from colors like this nowadays. So what I've been turning more towards is like cool tones, neutrals, not so much of the warm golds, rusty browns, things like that anymore. So a good example is the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz over here. So this one, as you can tell, is more cool tone, a little bit more purple leaning, definitely for sure. This one from Natasha Denona, the retro palette, it's really nice because half of this over here is kind of warm, but still it's neutral warm. So at least there's a little bit of wiggle room for me to play with. This half over here, you can tell, is a little bit more berry tone. So that's why I like to use this palette a lot. And it's one of my go-to palettes right now. An affordable drugstore palette I like to use is also this one, the Essence Pure Nude Eyeshadow Palette. One of my mutuals here, Marta, she's super sweet. She did say that this is one of her favorite palettes, so I had to pick it up when it reached Singapore shores, and I've been enjoying using this so much, and it does work really well for what it is. Colourpop's Going Coconuts palette is actually a really good starter as well for a night pen, and it's affordable. The color story of this is truly neutral, like you can't really go wrong with this, and it does pair really well with other palettes while at the same time wearing it standalone by itself. This is nice. And one of my biggest tips when it comes to picking up eyeshadow palettes, back then when I thought that I was warm tone, I kind of still wanted to experiment with cool tones, but without buying multiple small palettes here and there. So I would recommend getting like a big palette like this. This is Colourpop Stone Cold Fox. This one was my first ever cool tone palette, because back then I had so many warm tone palettes. I felt like if I invest in one of this and it's good enough. True enough, this is one of my go-to cool tone palettes at the moment, because we have the grays, we have the pinky mauves, and you have the purples as well over here. It just works out so well, so I'm glad that this is one of my investment pieces, I guess. I'm just really happy to have this, and if I ever had to like restart my whole makeup collection, this is definitely one that I would repurchase. We're gonna start off with matte eyeshadows. Matte eyeshadows, there's no shine, there's no shimmer particles in it, it's just flat. So by adding matte eyeshadows, what that does is actually helping to create some shadows in our eyes. And when the colors themselves, for example, like this is a light crease color over here, like light medium. What we'll do is we'll take a color like this, knock off the excess, because you don't want all of that fallout to end up on your face, right? We're going to put it into the crease over here, and we're just gonna do it in windshield wiping motion, so you go back and forth like this. So I put this like light medium crease shade on top over here, right? There's nothing much to it, there's nothing popping yet, alright? This is kind of to help to act like as a transition between the skin of like this area here to your eyelids. So this is just to help like blend it out. One thing I like to do when I lay down the crease shade over here is that when it comes to the tail end of your eye, I will kind of do a little bit of a flicking upward motion, or just, you know, kind of blend it along here, even though that's obviously not the crease. What this does is actually when you later lay down the deepening shadow, which we're going to do in a little bit, over here, the outer V of your eye, it just makes the eyes look a little bit more cohesive, and it does do that little, you know, sexy kind of thing. Kind of like giving your eyes an upward lift to it. The next step, which is the outer V over here, like I said, what we're gonna do is take a tonally deeper shade, and we're going to stamp some dark shadow on the outer V over here. And this is where I'll kind of play around with the color a little bit more. So this is the Stone Cold Fox palette, and it's cool tone leaning. So what I like to do is maybe go for something that is, let's go with this one, bold type. So I'll take it on this type of like bullet brush, knock off the excess again. This is how it looks like over here. Please focus, thank you. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stamp it like right here, outer V, this corner here. So by adding shadow like this, we are adding depth into our eyes, so definition, and you kind of like deepen the eye sockets a little bit. Like we're trying to mimic that. If you were to compare the two eyes, this side, the outer V looks more defined, and it kind of looks like it's deeper in the eye sockets, which is what we are trying to achieve, trying to create that definition in our eyes. So just a general rule of thumb is that if you have light eyeshadows, be it like a white, creamy white like this, or shimmery white gold like that, those colors will help to highlight the point of where you're trying to like lay the product down. By using shadows like this that are tonally deep, like dark browns, cool dark browns, anything that is tonally deep, like this is more of like a medium dark. Shadows like that, what they do is they will mimic shadow and basically kind of making things look deeper or deep set. And I always recommend to go in with a lighter hand regardless of whatever eyeshadow that you're using, because I went in with a lighter hand on the outer V. Now I can layer it and build it up a little bit more so I can achieve that level of depth that I'm really aiming for, at least. Also, the reason why I use a cool tone shadow for the outer V and not a neutral shadow is just that I want to play around the color and, you know, create some differentiation between the colors. If everything were to be like monochrome, which it is a cute look, don't get me wrong, personally for me, I just want to spice things up. You can see that I'm trying to go as close as possible to the lash line, and then I again will try to flick it up like this, again to mimic that, you know, upward lift for my eyes. And at this point, if you feel that between the two shadows, they are too harsh, it's just not to your liking, you can take the original brush that you used to lay down the crease shade and you can just go back and try to, blend the two shades together in like a windshield wiping motion like this, just to have a smoother blend. This is how the eyeshadow is looking like right now. Honestly, this is great for work. Throw on some mascara and like that's it, you're out the door. But if you're like, Crystal, I want a bit more drama, I still want a bit more definition for the eyes, what you're gonna do is take this really dark shadow. Can be warm, it can be cool, whatever your preference is. But for me, I prefer cool tones, so I'm gonna knock off the excess. This is kind of like a pencil brush. It's like a pointed tip. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay it really as close as possible to your lash line, almost as if like you're drawing eyeliner with it. Helps to add definition while still remaining soft and airy, nothing like a very harsh line to it. And when you reach the end over here, right, you're just gonna flick it out a little bit. Yeah, so something like this, it's very diffused. Okay, it's coming together. But now we're missing out this inner corner over here. I would use either, it can be a matte, it can be a shimmer. And this is your preference as well on how high contrast you want between the two shadows for your inner corner and your outer V. So sometimes I would even go into a shadow that is light medium in tone, so something like this that has a little bit more base pigmentation and shine to it. You could use that something like this white over here, something that is very tonally bright. So it depends on your preference. If you were to use a shade that is tonally closer to your skin tone, then obviously it will look a little bit more natural. If you were to use something that is very light and bright, obviously the contrast will be there and it's a little bit more obvious. Today, I feel like I want to go for something that's a little bit more subdued. So let's go for this shimmer shade over here. And besides, later, even though I've laid down these two shades, right, I will add a little bit of a something special on top of it to really make everything pop. This shade over here on my little pinky finger. I'm just gonna pop it in the inner corner and I'm just gonna spread it out just like that, all the way to the middle of the eyelid. One of the things I like to do is you take whatever excess is on your little pinky finger, you tilt your head back, okay, and you're holding your eyeshadow palette like this. You're looking down at it, you can actually see the curve of your eyeballs over here. And what I like to do is take that finger, you just hit the inner corner and you kind of follow the curve of your eyeball just to bring it up a little bit. So when the light shines and it's at an angle, the shimmer particles or even the tonally white, bright matte eyeshadow, it will still, have that contrast and you just want to bring it up, lift it up even higher. Honestly, this is good enough for a night out, but if you're like me, you like your eyes to be bright, sparkly, the star of the show, then I highly recommend getting liquid glitter. So in my previous tutorial, I think I did not mention back then about liquid glitters. I wasn't really using it, but liquid glitters are where it's at because this is on a whole other level. I do have a bunch over here that I love to use, but honestly, I'm a little bit of a rush right now. Let me know if you want a dedicated review showing all of my liquid glitters, things like that. This one I got from Korea in Daiso for I think $3. It was really affordable. So it has more of like a white shimmer particle to it, but because the base of it is transparent, it really does let the shimmer, or basically the inner corner shade over here, to really pop. I'm gonna take a bunch of it on the back of my hand and taking my pinky finger, focusing it on the inner corner. I'm not gonna bring it up all the way to the end over here even, really just focusing it right over here. I might bring it up just slightly, like whatever excess, a hint of it up here, and like that's it. Like the middle is where we stop. And that is the secret sauce. Honestly, you can play around with K-Beauty glitter because a lot of them have different specks of glitters and shimmers in them. So this is like a pink based one. This one from ROM-N has this type of like romantic lilac kind of color. And you have something like a rosy gold kind of thing for this one as well. So the possibilities are endless and you can really mix and match to kind of let the particles of the glitters pop. So for example, if I wanted, I could have gone in with this pink aqua green to contrast against the cool tone brown. But if you want to play it safe, I usually feel that glitters with silver flecks to it, they usually go well with anything. So this is one of my recommendations, but unfortunately it's only available in Korea at Daiso, so it's super niche. It's really hard to get your hands on it internationally, so it's a forbidden fruit. Hello, I am back from the outside world and this is how the eyeshadow is looking like after a couple of hours. I was in a rush just now. I am so sorry I didn't get any, this is the before and after clip, that kind of thing. But honestly, this eye makeup looks so good. I would have wanted to actually do a little bit of lower lash makeup because I've been slowly getting back into it as well. So maybe I might just do, pre-shower makeup. Is that what you call it? That's a thing nowadays, right? This is the perfect time to actually just play around makeup and not be super wary of it, I guess. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back into the same brush and the same shade, the same crease shade, just to keep it cohesive. And if you don't have an eye brush that is like thin enough, what I recommend is actually pinching your brush that is like this, right? And what you can do is you can just, I need to angle it so you guys can see it better, but like, see something like this? And just like run it underneath like that. Just as like a makeshift brush. And because it's a transition shade, right, it's pretty light, but it does make a subtle difference in just adding a bit of color to your lower lash line. Dipping into the same dark shade over here, run it maybe only like the outer 1/3, and like that's it. I don't push it too close into the middle where the pupil lies. So I just like run it like right on the outer thirds, and like that's the most that I would do. And honestly, lower lash mascara is something that I still struggle with till today. So sometimes I don't like to use a black mascara like this because it can look a little bit jarring as well. Like there's little spider legs. It just looks very unnatural. So the one that I've been liking so far is this one that I got in Japan. This is the ROM-N by N, if I am not wrong. This is the convenience store line of ROM-N in Japan. This one is in BR01 Ash Brown. And the reason why I like this is because that the bristles itself are quite densely packed and they are not long. So I've tried using this on my normal regular lashes. It droops so fast. I don't like it, honestly. But this one is a lower lash mascara. Great. And because it's not black, it's like, I feel like sometimes if you were to try and run like the whole length of the mascara wand like this on your lower lash line like that, there's a high chance you will kind of let the bristle touch the skin of your under eyes. So what I also recommend is actually just using it perpendicular to the floor, and you just use the tip of it to kind of coat your lower lash line. I did make a bit of a boo-boo by letting the mascara touch the skin of my under eyes. And we're gonna do the lower inner corner glitter. So I'm gonna take that same glittery white shimmer shade over here, and I'm going to take a tiny dense packer brush. This is actually a brush from ColourPop. It's in one of the roll sets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of it over here. This brush in particular is great because I can go in quite detailed with my Asian eyes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus it on this inner eye fat right over here. And I would say this is the final look. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have any more questions on certain techniques, what products I use, drop it down below. I'll have everything linked in the description as well, so check that out. And it's good to be back on YouTube. It has been a hot minute since I posted something. Just needed to, settle some things personally, and I'm back, so it's good to be back here again. I would love if you can hit that like button, subscribe down below, and make sure to ring the bell. The bell keeps you notified on when I upload, and I will see you guys in my next video, which you can find over here.